The bowline is one of the most useful knots that you could learn. It's a knot that you can use to wrap to secure a rope around an object, whether it's a rock or a very secure tree. Let's pretend that this is a secure enough tree for perhaps an anchor point, and I'm going to wrap the rope around the tree. And so you can clearly see which end is the end that will be taking the load and which end is the tail. And so it's very important to keep that distinguished throughout the knot. So you're going to take the load end of the rope and you're going to make a twist. And then you'll take the load end of the rope again to grab a bight, and you're going to pass that bight through the twist so that you can create a slip hitch, like so. And so now you'll take the tail and you'll pass the tail through that slip hitch, making sure to pull enough through so that you can finish the knot at the end. And now I'm going to pull the load end. And one of the key parts that you'll usually have to do to finish this knot is to take this little tongue at the bottom of the knot as you pull the load and just guide that tongue upward toward the object you're tying around and pull that load strong. And so now you see that I've completed the bowline, but the bowline is not complete until I've tied a backup knot. So I'm going to tie a barrel knot with the tail, and I'm going to tie that barrel knot around the piece of rope that the tail is coming out of the knot right next to. So you can see that. I'm going to tie it around this piece right here. And so it's just half of that fisherman knot that we just finished. So I'm going to wrap it once. And the second wrap goes below the first wrap, so I'm creating that X. And then I'm going to thread the tail up under that X, away from the bowline, toward the tree, and tighten it securely. And that is our bowline. Something that can also prove to be very useful is being able to tie a bowline with a bight of rope. Sometimes you might have your tail occupied at another point in your anchor, and you might want to use anywhere in the center of the rope to tie another leg of your anchor. And so we are going to call, now we're going to call both of these ends our load, and this is going to now be our tail. And I'm going to tie the same bowline as if I'm using one piece of material, treating this as one rope. So we're going to wrap around the tree, just like so. Again, distinguishing the difference between the load and the tail. Taking the load, making that twist, taking a bight from the load side, and passing it through that twist. And so making sure that the side that you're passing that bight through is the opposite side from which the load is coming from. There is my slip hitch. Take the tail, I'm going to pass it through and pull the load tight, guiding that tongue back upward toward the rest of the knot. There it is. And then again, it's not a finished knot until we've tied a barrel knot on the same strand that the tail is coming out next to. So one wrap, two wraps, the second below the first, and threading that tail up back toward the tree, away from the knot. And that is a finished and secure bowline. Now, I want to talk about some places where people can tend to go wrong when tying the bowline. And one of those places is in the slip hitch. So I know it can get confusing when you're using a piece of rope for practice that isn't quite long enough, but it is very important to distinguish the difference between the load and the tail. One thing that I see people do commonly is forget which end to create that slip hitch on, and so they might create that slip hitch on the tail end, which is not the end that you'll end up wanting the load to be pulling from in the end. So make sure that you're doing the slip hitch on the load strand. And then the other thing that people mess up a lot is not pulling the bight from the rest of the rope. And instead, where they make a mistake is they accidentally pull the bight in the slip hitch from the loop of the knot. So they'll pull this bight and pass it through like that, and that can make it so that you have an incorrectly tied knot. So make sure that that bight is coming from the rest of the rope where the load will be, and not from the loop side of the rope.